It's a very interesting story because I was not planning to work as developer.
That was a legit great journey. So many ups and downs, so many interesting points. How you actually applied it? Like you applied on the career site, or like how was your point of rejections? How many companies you applied in? A few times your resume got rejected, and after that it got selected. So what is the point that the people should take care that? Hi everyone, we have Ash with us. He has more than 10 years of experience as an iOS developer, have developed dozens of applications, including his own ones. So we will see everything today, starting from freelancing, development, and then grabbing offer from Uber in such great times. So yeah, let's start. So Ash, firstly, a great congratulations, and let's quickly start with a quick introduction from your side.
Hey guys, thank you everyone. I'm really happy to be here. A few words about me. My name is Ash. I have 10 years of programming experience as an iOS developer. First part of my career, I started working in outsourcing companies. And for the second one, I decided to focus only on product companies to learn more about team processes, some difficult product techniques, and teamwork at all. And that's why for the last, I think, 7 years, I worked just in product companies, developing one or two products. And I think if you want, to learn how to work in big companies, you should try to work in product companies at first, because on freelancing, I also had a freelancing experience. You can't in all ways get all important information and knowledge to work in such big companies. Yeah, and as you already said, not much time ago, I got an offer from Uber for a senior position. It's if you talk numbers, it's L5A position, and I will be working on mobile networking SDK for an iOS. As I know, these SDKs use all iPhone mobile applications at Uber, so something like that. And in the next few days, I will be relocating to Amsterdam as well.
So, as in, like, from starting itself, you had a great interest in iOS development. So, why only specifically iOS development, and how it all started, and how was the growth and learnings in iOS development? So, like, for the person, let's say he want to go into iOS development, so what will you recommend to him? Maybe by your past experiences, or what you
Mhm.
did, or what was your entire journey like in iOS development? Some tips, suggestions, advices.
It's a very interesting story because I was not planning to work as developer at the
Okay.
beginning. When I finished my university, it was more than 10 years ago as well, a lot of time.
Yeah.
I tried to find a job. I was not sure that I want to work as a programmer because there was not so much opportunities on the market at that time. And I had no clear vision of what programming language or what kind of programming I want to work with. So I tried different positions, but I was rejected from after the interviews. It was hard time for me. I think I spent about half an a year trying to find a position in my city. Also, I tried paid internship, but after that, I didn't get a job. So even having, in my case, an education in university, I learned programming in university mainly. It was hard for me to find a job after that. So I used to work in a bank. It was not a programming job. So I worked some about half and a year there, and then I understood that I don't like this and I should try something else. I leave this job. I have no ideas what to do next, but I was hoping for the best. And after a few months, my brother asked in his company where he was working if they need developers on C sharp, and they said yes. And it's how I joined my first company. and I was not able to write C# at all because after just 2 days I joined this company and just started to installing some programs on my working computer. My boss asked me if I will be able to develop iPad application in 2 days. I said it's interesting one, but I should do my own research. I checked everything. At that time on iOS, there was just Objective-C language. Right now, it's also Swift.
Yeah.
So I checked Objective-C language, and it looked familiar for me because I already knew C Sharp, some of C++ during my university education. And yes, I said that I can do it. I signed for this contract, if we can call it like that. And in the next 2-3 days, I finished my first iOS application on iPad and we send it to App Store.
Great.
Yeah, and I liked it so much that I decided to improve my skills in iOS development in the future and become fully concentrated on iOS developer.
Wow. That was a like legit great journey. Like so many ups and downs, so many interesting points.
Yeah.
Yeah. So as you had a great iOS development journey, and after that, for sure, you got an offer from Uber. So in Uber, like what all rounds we had, and how was all the rounds and all the days divided into, if anyone is applying for that level?
For my level, I was initially interviewing for a staff position. It's L5B. I had, of course, firstly, it's a recruiter screen. If you, if they accept your resume, if they think that it's okay, you are good for this position, then the recruiter contact you for a short call. Also on my screen with the recruiter, I was initially interviewing to Canada. That's why there was additional difficulties. Maybe we will discuss it later. How I
Yeah.
finally get to Amsterdam. Yeah, on that screen, I also was asked a kind of behavioral question. So I discussed with the recruiter one of my stories, one of my behavioral stories. As I remember, it was a kind of conflict situation with a teammate.
Okay.
So the story is pretty big. It could take several minutes to tell. So
Yeah.
on this week, I don't know when our video will go live, but let's say on June 22
Yeah.
on my YouTube channel, I will upload a video about behavioral interviews and how to prepare. And
Great.
also there I will share one of my behavioral stories with all the highlights, what to do, and I will explain there how to write such stories. So
Yeah.
if you are interested, guys, check this video as well.
Cool.
So
The link will
without
be down below for the for your like YouTube channel.
and it was the main idea why I started this channel, in order to help other guys like me who thought that it will be, very hard or impossible to join such big companies. And I'm, revealing these myths.
Yeah.
So it's 100% possible for you guys. It's especially I saw a lot of resumes in your Telegram channel, and whoa, guys, you solve so much Leetcode problems. So it will be very easy for you. If we talk about me, I solved just about 300 problems, so not so much, and it
Great.
will be it was enough to pass the interviews. Okay, let's return to rounds
Yeah.
that I had at Uber. After the recruiter screen, I had an engineering screen. It's a classical algorithmic problem. So you solve one easy medium problem for 40 minutes. And after that, if you pass it, company invites you to on-site. On-site, it's a series of interviews. I had a graph problem, so it was a classical Leetcode problem. So nothing special about it. So if you solve a Leetcode, it would be very familiar. You would be very familiar with these problems on real
Yeah.
interviews as well. And if we talk about Uber, they conduct the interviews in platforms like Code Signal, where you can write and compile your code and see the results. So you don't need to write a code in Google Doc like companies like Amazon and Google do. So it's much easier when you can compile and see immediately the result.
Also, like how you actually applied it, like you applied on the career site or like messaged or pinged recruiters. How was that part?
Because I was preparing inside a company that I mentioned before,
Yeah.
Outelt. They had a number of referrals. It's some of the previous graduates also who
Oh,
joined such companies. So they offer a kind of opportunities referring you to the company. So in my case, it was the same. I got a referral to Uber and
okay.
yeah, applied in such way, send my
Yeah.
resume through him. And I
Great.
recommend you also try to find such guys on LinkedIn and write them. In most cases they will like to referral you as well, because if you get this position they will get money for that. So
Yeah. Yeah. Great. Yeah. Let's move back to the rounds. Sorry, I
mhm.
switched a lot.
Okay, no problem. After that, if you pass the engineering screen, you will face the on-site. So on-site, it's the series of interviews, and the hiring decision will be made based on all these interviews. So it would be a kind of summary. In my case, for a staff position, I had 6 interviews. First was coding. It's the same as engineering screen, but problems harder, and I had 2 problems. The second one also coding, but it's the second interview, iOS coding. So it's a kind of imitation real work inside a test project. So you get some tasks and you should implement them during 1 hour call. Next one, system design. In classical system design, there are a lot of videos on YouTube about that. In my
Yeah.
case, it was iOS system design, not backend part. So I was architecturing just client side of the application. So yeah, this is it. And other 2 3 interviews. Why I say 2 3? Because one of that interviews was split to 2 different interviews, not 1 hour interviews, but 30 minutes interview. It was for one day also, and it's more was like a behavioral interview. So one was a classical behavioral interview. I had interview with Uber director in Canada. So yeah, it
Oh,
was very interesting opportunity, not just a regular manager, but a kind of director. So
yeah.
interesting one. And the second interview was, as I said, split it into 2 parts. The first part was a more technical one. We discussed processes, what I do on my current job at that time. We discussed some release processes, some architectures, and second part was more like behavioral as well. So we discussed more behavioral things. So overall, it was 5 6 interviews, 1 hour interviews. Yeah.
Oh, great. And as in like you mentioned that for sure the people can prepare for behavioral rounds, people can prepare for as you had your iOS rounds also, you had experience for that. How was your grip on DSA and the programming which they asked? How much time it took for you to prepare for that? How was your background earlier before actually your Uber interviews? At how much point you started, like before how much time you started, and all that on your coding part, like DSA and all that stuff.
Mm-hmm. As I said, I finished university at programming, so I had something like algorithms there, but more on theoretical level. And it was so much time ago that I don't even remember the names of that algorithms.
Yeah.
So we can say that by the time I started solving Leetcode last year, I was on zero level. Of course, I knew some data structures that I used during my work, like hash maps, arrays, but I never used trees during my work, graphs or something like that.
Yeah.
That's why all these data structures and algorithms I used to learn from scratch. And for me, it took, if we talk about just DSA preparation for coding interviews, it took 2 months for me. So most of the time I was preparing for this part because there are a lot of information, there are a lot of algorithms, and as well you should learn to identify the problem, understand what algorithm to use, and after that code it fast and without
Yeah.
any bugs. So it will require a lot of time to prepare. And I also used for this Leetcode platform. uh, I think you are familiar with it. It's a popular one. And also your YouTube videos was very helpful for me to understand some problems on Leetcode. So it's also 100% possible to finish task to prepare for coding interviews yourself. You need just Leetcode and YouTube.
Yeah. So like as in like you said for DSA it took 2 months, and for rest of the part, let's say behavioral rounds, your own work experience collection, and some iOS rounds, entirely like entire preparation, how much time it took?
About overall about 3 months. So the last part, behavioral system design and IS coding, it's took just 1 month, and most of that was behavioral. Because system design, because of my big experience, I also knew about architectures. I just watched a few videos on YouTube and learned, the optimal structure, what should I do, and all the timings on the real interview. And also I did a few mocks to practice that, and was enough for me. And also I want to mention about system design that it's not a required step for junior role. So don't afraid of system design if you are just starting your career. In 90% cases you will not have such interview on your own site. Behavioral part took much more time because it was new for me as well, as I'm discussing on my future video, that before my preparations for behavioral, I thought it's kind of just a kind of discussion with a manager interviewer. So you just need to be honest and discuss with interviewer your experience. But I was wrong because it requires a solid preparations. You should write your stories, you should write them well, and you should try to tell the story. Not try, you should learn to tell your story well, and make the interviewer listen to you, not to make them bored or something like that.
Yeah.
So for me, I worked with a behavioral mentor inside that company that I called already, and it helped me a lot because I, as other developers, don't like to write a lot of words. I prefer coding,
Yeah.
so it was hard for me to write a lot of stories. Finally, I wrote 10 stories to answer different questions and to cover all various of another questions that could appear in the future on the interview. So I call it this preparation a kind of cycle. When you write something, then you show your stories to your mentor, and after that you fix based on the feed.
Yeah.
So I recommend you guys also to firstly learn to write them. Use star method for that, and after that, when you write your stories, try to find a kind of guy who already passed these interviews, like me or maybe other developers who already did this behavioral preparation, and show your stories to them to get some insights, get some feedback on how to improve it, because it's very difficult. At least in my case, it was very difficult to understand how to write them right from the first time.
Yeah, that is true. Behavioral rounds are very like it can go anyways. Not sure that how an interviewer might comprehend what we are saying. For sure, it's never truth
Yeah.
entirely said. Moving forward, for sure, that was it was a great happiness that you joined Uber. But before every success, we had a point. It's not done. It's not done. It's not doing. We are not getting anything. So, how was your point of rejections? How many companies you applied in? How was your day? How was your attempts, or how was your trial going on? And then ultimately you got Uber. That was a big win. But before that, because mostly people are stuck on that before part, so it will be very helpful if we can draw some highlight on how it just goes on, that how many like rejections a person can actually think, okay, I can have these many particular rejections. Maybe we are trying, but we are not going in. So something on that. So
I can split my interviewing into two parts. The first one I mentioned already when I was trying to pass the interviews with Reddit and Yelp and failed. I was rejected. And after that, I thought that I need to get some solid preparation, because I understood that I maybe in some points don't know some things and I need to learn them. And it's the idea I think everyone should learn to don't be upset when you get rejected. It's an opportunity to learn something new and improve it. So, and sometimes it's also maybe not your fault. They just chose another candidate. So try to do the things that on your side that you can improve, and don't think about things that you can't control. So try your best and hope for that you will pass interviews and get the job. So yeah, and also if you get rejected, don't get upset. Try again and again, and of course you will, with some solid preparation, if you're sure that you started everything okay, you will finally get your job. So don't be upset. And in my case, after I spent these 3 months preparing for the interviews, the massive layoffs just started. So
yeah.
it was the second biggest wall behind me. And so I planned to interview with all big companies like Amazon, Apple, Facebook. But at the time I started interviewing, it was October 2022. Most of the companies was not hiring, and
Yeah.
some of them, like Amazon and Google, I started interviewing, they closed the position. So it was also hard for me. And some of the companies rejected me on resume. So I finished with just few interviews with few companies, like as I mentioned already, it was Uber, Google, and Amazon. On Google, I was interviewing, but in the middle of process, they said that it was Google Singapore. They said that the position was closed, and of course, I can continue my interviews, but there is no position right now, and it will not make a lot of sense for me to continue. So they offered me to pause my interviews and try to find another positions. The good thing here is that my interview results will be valid, as I remember, for 1 year. So if something will appear, it's not a case for me right now because I already got an Uber offer. Sorry, it's not a case for me. But for example, if I was rejected, I could continue interviews with Google. after some time when new IS position appear. It's the second problem that I'm an IS developer. There are not a lot of position, especially at Google, because they do Android first.
Yeah.
So it was hard to find IS positions as well, especially at such market. So it was mainly rejections on that step of my interviewing was on the resume step. So companies just rejected my resume and didn't invite me to interview with them. And if we talk about companies that started interviewing with me, I passed all the interviews. It sounds very good, but I was interviewing with just three companies, so
Yeah.
I don't think that it's a very big achievement. So yeah. And finally, I had just Uber, so I continued interviewing with them till the end, and I was trying to focus only at this company to maximize my chances. If we talk about on-site, usually it's company splits on-site into several days, 2-3 days, with a few interviews during one day. But in my case, because I was interviewing with Canada, there was a big time difference. Also, some of the interviews were in USA. So the possible time when I could start to interview with them was late by my time, late evening. So I asked Uber to split my on-site into 5 different days to be able to increase my chances to pass them, not be tired during evening, because I tried to do so with Yelp company. As I remember, my interview started at 9 p.m. at the evening, and I had 4 or 5 interviews. So I finished late midnight, and some of this round was coding as well, and we had no breaks, so it was very hard, and at the
Yeah.
end my head was just cracking.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, that is actually very hard to have in the late nights and the late evenings. On
Yeah.
that part of your resume, like you said that like a few times your resume got rejected and after that it got selected. So what is the point that the people should take care that it should be in the resume and it should be, let's say, like this long, it should have high importance. So what are those major things which you think that it should be in your resume so that it can get selected by these companies?
The first thing, your resume should be short and clear, because if you place yourself into a recruiter seat, you should understand that there are a lot of candidates and there are a lot of resumes. They check every day, and if your resume will be hard to read, hard to understand the main points, you will decrease your chances to get selected. So as I already mentioned in your Telegram channel, I described a few tips how to write your resume, and also attached my resume as an example there. So if you guys want to get main insights, join Telegram channel and check everything there. Oh no, sorry, Telegram chat, right?
Yeah.
Aryan's Telegram chat. Yeah. If we talk in general, you should the main here is your points that you get during your work in companies. I understand that a lot of guys who watch us right now are students and don't have a lot of working experience. So you should focus on your education and projects that you did during your education. So you should try to describe them in a kind of real work manner. So you should get some points, some interesting ones that you improved something, that you achieved something, and it's the main thing, because recruiters inside big companies not interested in things that you were working on. So for example, if we talk about iOS, I can write that I was developing the feature like this, and it will not say recruiter anything, because it's just description of your work, not description of what you achieved, and there are no any results in your message. So when recruiter reads this, he could think about a lot of negative things, like you were developing but you didn't finish it. You developed this, but this feature didn't go live, or if it went live, maybe it didn't bring any money to the company, or didn't improve any numbers or metrics for the company.
Yeah.
That's why we should try to not give this space to the recruiter to think more than we try to tell him. That's why always, if you have, try add numbers, some concrete improvements, achievements to your main description of what you did. So if we talk about this feature, you should write that I developed this feature, and this increased some metrics by X points, and for example, the company earned some X number of dollars.
Yeah. Yeah, that was super helpful. Especially on that, we have to specifically focus on numbers and not to give recruiter the chance to think of other stuff. Moving forward, like let's go into some interesting part. How was your hike percentage, or how was your negotiation which you did? How difficult was it, and how easy was it? So, how, like, what you planned initially, and then how it turned out to be, all that stuff.
In my case, it was very hard, because I have what to compare with other guys in my group who was preparing for the interviews and who was negotiating. The problem in my case, what that, as I said, I was initially interviewing to Canada, but when I got my interview feedback from recruiters that everything was good and they want to make me an offer, only I think after 2 days after that, I didn't have a lot of time to be happy about that. They said that a visa to Canada takes about 7 months for me, and there are no teams that are ready to wait me so much time. And it was kind of frustrating for me, because after such steps that I passed, I was sure that I will get this offer. But I didn't get upset at that time, and I asked if we can switch my interview result to another locations like Amsterdam. Unfortunately, it was close to the new year at that time, and of course there was no new positions. Every position was closed already, and because of the layoffs as well, it didn't affect Uber as much as other companies, but also they, in some ways, especially for iOS, number of positions was less than I expected. And the new year affected it as well, kind of budgeting and planning for the new year, for the next year. It sometimes take few months for such big companies to plan. So at the time they understand how much they want to hire for the next year, it could pass already a few months of the next year. So, and it was the same for my case. So I used to wait about 4 months until a single iOS position appear on Uber website. I was checking it every day, literally from the moment I decided to move to Amsterdam with Uber, and there was no single position there. And when it appeared, I tried to get this position. I wrote the recruiter, and we continued discussing this position. So in that case, the main difficulty was why I'm telling all this, because you are negotiating with a recruiter, and in my case, I got a new recruiter that I was not in contact with before, so we didn't build a kind of trusting relationship all over the interviewing process, so it was absolutely new guy for me, so it was hard at this point to negotiate, and as well it was hard because of massive layoffs. I think that companies like Uber who still hiring, they understand that other companies don't hire and there are less competition on the market, and they can be more aggressive in negotiation parts.
Yeah.
So for me, when I get my first offer, I understood that usually one tip for negotiation, it's hard to for companies to increase your base salary because it has some strict ranges for this for all the position. But the thing you can improve is stocks that you get for this offer. So I try to mainly focus on this, but from the first emails with my recruiter when I was negotiating, she had very strong positions that they don't want to increase, but I had a clear understanding that the number of stocks that I got is not on the seniority I have, with all 10 years of experience. It's more like for seniors on starting levels with just a few years of experience. And I also have examples among people I know who was interviewing with Uber who got several times more compensations on stocks, and it was more on another like base salary too, but it was for another location, Denmark, so they have higher salary. But I tried to at least get improvement on my stock part, because it's the thing you could really earn a lot in the future on some distance if Uber stocks will go up.
Yeah.
And it went, if you guys check the stock price, but unfortunately I'm still not working, and I will get my stocks by this high price already. So, uh,
Yeah.
and finally I was able to get a rise for my stocks. Other parts was not raised. I get a sign-in bonus, 10,000 euros, but it's not so much because in Amsterdam you should pay 50% taxes from all your salary and bonuses as well. So it's just I will get just about 500. Or I mean 5,000 bonus. And about stocks, I got about 60-70% raise from my initial stocks offer. So I think it's good, especially if we think about that my negotiation was very hard and I used to go all in. I took a lot of time to think, also try to understand how on company side want to me to join the company, and finally when I said that I should think, I wait some time, I think about a week, to try to make Uber a little bit nervous about me about accepting this offer, and they finally came back to me and offered some raise for the stock. So I'm happy with it.
Yeah. So that was actually a tough situation when the recruiter comes in new and then you have to again go from scratch and tell him that, okay, you are the actual ones who is, but yeah, still getting so much increment in stocks was actually a win-win. Last,
Yeah,
yeah,
and especially, sorry, I add here when I saw examples of other guys who was negotiating like, hey, I want some raise, and from company side they answered in just one or two emails after that yeah, okay, and they got raises like 100%, or also for senior positions with solid numbers as well. So yeah, I had something to compare with, and I could say that it was very hard negotiation for me, and it was confirmed by my behavioral mentor, who was also helping to negotiate with. At some point, she advised me to get this offer, initial offer, without raises, but I decided to go all in and finally get normal raise for the stock.
Yeah, that is actually interesting. Last but not least, a few suggestions, recommendations, or tips for the people who are impacted by layoffs or yet still searching for jobs. Now, all these people are free right now, so they are parallelly preparing for the companies like big MNCs, and also they are thinking that either we should do freelancing, open source, or we should go in preparing DSA and then preparing for big MNCs. So what path should these people take going forward? Like, shall they jump in, shall they keep both of them, or shall they do freelancing, or only prepare for DSA and big MNCs? So like, what are your point on this for the people who are like impacted or like still not yet got any jobs and stuff?
It's mostly depend on your situation. I think as for me, I was working on my previous job until June, so up to the moment I moved to the Amsterdam. So if you need money, you don't have a lot of savings to get this preparation time and get offer and relocate, because it could take a lot of time, even if you pass all the interviews from the first time, as I did. For me, I started preparing in the middle of summer. It was I think June, second part of June, and I'm relocating just now, so it took 1 year. Even for me, that I passed everything from the first time. So it could take a lot of time, and you need money to live all the time. So I don't recommend you to leave your job right now, or think that you can find something very fast at such big companies, because the process could take a lot of time for you as well. So I recommend you to find a job or freelance, and in parallel with that, you could try to get new knowledge in DSA, solve Leetcode. It don't requires a lot of time, so it could be easily done with your main job, as I did. So you will need just a few hours a day to solve Leetcode, 2-3 hours, and it will be enough. And especially if we talk about students who already solve thousands of problems, you don't need any additional preparations on Leetcode, so you can focus on another parts, and it will take much less time for you as well. So yeah, I advise to don't leave your job, because I knew examples when people did it and they waited to move to another company very fast, but it took some time, and could be very challenging for you, because we need money to live. It's the problem here.
Yeah.
And at some point, if you run out of money, it could affect your preparations as well, and could destroy your long-term plans to join such
Yeah.
companies. So I advise you to think twice at this point, and to plan everything very carefully.
Yeah, that is true. That firstly, we should not skip our jobs, and also we can just try parallelly freelancing and then looking, because money is very important to actually
Yeah.
have that stable mindset. That was really, really, really helpful, Ash. And for sure, all the people, Ash YouTube channel is down below. Also, the Telegram chat group is also down below, in which Ash has reviewed many people's resume, and also his resume is also available there to actually have a look. And also you can just ping in your resume to have what all points. Basically, he discussed many points in that chat itself. So yeah, please go and have a look at that, join it, maybe get your resume reviewed also. Everything you can get help from the community. And again, a big congratulations, Ash, for Uber. Thank you so much for
Thank you.
coming in and giving such valuable points about experiences. That was super helpful.
Thank you for you. It was very interesting for me. It's my first interview, so thank you.
Yeah. Thank you, everyone. Bye bye.
Bye, guys.